have a solution. The Whine No Whine Show, where you can be friended and offended all in the same hour, where we gather people from all different walks of life and perspectives, and we talk about everything that everyone has told you not to. Religion, politics, and everything under the sun. Nothing is off limits, and we do it all over a glass of wine. So grab a glass and join us as we save America, one civil conversation at a time.
3, 2, 1, action!
We're live! Such energy and vim and vigor. Welcome to the Whine No Whine Show, the only show where you can be friended and offended all in the same glorious hour. America, we have a problem. You know what I'm talking about. You have probably experienced it, especially on the Facebook. We found music just randomly. Yay! I want music, and the production crew that I just tasked to do this a minute before the show starts is still trying to make it happen. That's what the random craziness is in the background. Anyway, the problem that I was describing, as I refer to it, is called the zero to Nazi effect. You've probably seen this, right? In any given conversation, especially on social media, when there's a disagreement, it's the length of time it takes to go from zero to "you're a Nazi. I will now punch you in the face and go outside and set fire to your car." That's how we disagree in America. So, we're fixing it. And the solution is wine. Lots and lots of wine. Glorious wine. We get together, friends from all different walks of life, different viewpoints, to discuss all the toughest issues of the day. And novel idea, we just aren't jerks to each other. What a crazy idea. Making it happen. Yeah, right. So far. It may be different on this show, I'm telling you, because there's like two adamant opinions and two adamant opinions on this subject. It's going to be a lot of fun. Today, guys, we are talking about a very, very tricky little situation here. State of Kansas just passed a law recently, went through the House and the Senate. Governor said that they would sign off on it, and that is in adoption. Can organizations choose to reject or turn away people based on their religion or sexual preference when adopting a baby? So can a Catholic charity or a Mormon organization, or take your pick, choose to refuse to allow a Muslim family to adopt a baby because the parent that gave the child away for adoption wanted to bring that child to that organization with the wish that it would go to a Catholic family or a whatever family, a Buddhist family? I have no idea. Whatever. What do you think about that? Is it discrimination or is it religious freedom? What are your thoughts? Chime in with your comments, because as the show goes along here, our production crew is going to be looking for the best comments. And when we break for our sponsor, a word from our sponsor, when we come back, production crew will have selected the top 3 comments. So will it be you? I don't know. So chime in with your thoughts, guys. I'd really love to hear what you have to say on this. Your comments guide the course of this show just as much as the guests here on the show. So we're going to dig in and give our guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. But before we do, I'm going to tell you, we are drinking today on the show this very nice white wine. It's called a Grande Caballeros Tarantes Mendoza. You have to say it that way. Tarantes Mendoza.
You must foot stomp when you do it.
Yes, foot stomp, yes. And it is an Argentinian wine. And it's an interesting wine. I've never had this particular grape before. And just the description here says, while we think of the Mendoza region as the source of international quality red Malbecs, this fragrant white wine is truly an original. Its origins aren't exactly clear, but the Torrantes grape may have been developed in Argentina as a cross between 2 European varietals, the Muscat and the Mission grape. Its appeal has spread throughout the whole world, and the producer we've selected here crafts this a perfect example of this wine's appeal. So it's a very light, fruity wine. Smell right off the bat, we can smell the honeysuckle in it. So it's going to be an interesting wine. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't even sipped it here yet, but stick around at the end of the show. We're going to rate the wine, and there's already a picture of it that's been on the screen, I'm sure, as production crew's been doing that. And on Instagram, you'll want to follow us, because I always post the photo up there tomorrow after the show with the ratings here from the show, and you can find out where to get it and all that stuff. So anyway, we're going to dig in today's topic. So adoption, Is it a freedom that a private organization should have? Should they be able to choose who this child's going to? Should they be able to discriminate based on religion, sexual preference, etc.? Or is that just discrimination and it's wrong? What are your thoughts on this, guys? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Y'all chime in. But we're going to get introductions and shameless plugs. The big part of the pay package that, exorbitant pay package our guests get on this show is that they get to do a shameless plug and all the wine they can drink. So, Steve!
You going to start with me this week?
Of course. Like every week.
Man, the pressure is on. Okay, well, hello. My name is Steve Williams, and, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, yeah. My shameless plug today is we have a friend who was going to be on the show today. I have a friend. His name is Eddie Gallegos. I hope he's watching from his hospital room recovering from gallbladder surgery, emergency gallbladder surgery. From what I understand, everything went well, and he's doing okay. I haven't seen an update yet, but I hope he chimes in and says, hello, Steve. Anyway, that would be great, and he would really appreciate your thoughts and prayers. And I'm sure that we'll make some room for him in a future show.
Yes, absolutely.
So good luck, Eddie, and we'll see you soon.
All right, Sam.
Well, I hope Eddie gets better. And my shameless plug is, my name is Samantha McCauley. I am going to school for massage therapy. I have 2 more semesters left, but I'm really good at what I do, and just look out for me for when I finally get my license.
There you go.
Nice.
To a massage coming to you.
Yes.
Nice.
Eileen.
Hi, I'm Eileen, and my shameless plug is from last week. It goes along with travel, but in order to travel, I have to do something to make a little bit of money. And it's not a lot of money, but I face paint. So if you need, for any event, a child's birthday party, a big corporate event, anything at all, I'll come.
Campaign debate.
Yes. Sports events.
That's what campaign debates are missing. Some good face
painting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody loves the face painter until the line runs out and you can't do that last child, and everybody hates the face painter. But if you need a face painter, look on Facebook.
Face painting goes ugly. Tonight on Dateline.
That I can't even post what's happened.
Sandy was in line for 3 hours waiting for her face paint.
And her, right, exactly. And now Sandy's on the floor crying because your time ran out. So that goes along with parental discipline, but we're not going there. So look me up on Facebook.
All she wanted was a unicorn.
By Eileen. 4 hours too late. Sorry. I try to get everybody. So look me up if you need a face painter. Face painting by Eileen. That's my shameless plug for today. All about me. Sorry.
Yes.
No,
That's what the shameless plug is for.
Okay, so I am Saul. I am the War Chief of Tribe the Agency. It's a real estate firm. We donate 10% of our net profit to charities. But my shameless plug is surprisingly not for that. And it's not even really a shameless plug. I was a FEMA inspector during the hurricane, and I actually spent quality time in Puerto Rico. Like
was a female inspector back in college.
Clearly,
FEMA.
Clearly you
FEMA.
failed at your
FEMA.
task.
My bad. Sorry.
But I've maintained
I didn't
a
know
lot
that
of,
job paid. I was going to say.
Well,
Yeah.
only the ones that have quality work. So I can see why you failed.
Touche.
But at any rate, I made a lot of friends over there, and I'm in contact with them on Facebook and stuff like that. And they regularly have no electricity. They regularly have no water. They regularly are suffering stuff that we would never allow anywhere here in the U.S. They are a territory. They are part of the U.S. We need to be doing something for them. That's all I'm saying. If you have any pull anywhere, look out for those people. I mean, I talk to them regularly, and I hear what they're going through, and you know what? It breaks my heart to know that they're, like our brothers and sisters over there struggling. But that's it.
Cool. All right.
Nice.
Yep. Good shameless plug there. There you go.
It's the
It's really
humanitarian.
funny. He went to Puerto Rico as a FEMA inspector, and I had a FEMA inspection come to our house that was destroyed, and he was from Puerto Rico. So he came here, you went there, and it's like, shit.
If you two knew each other, you could have saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
We were doing the transfer program, like go abroad.
Yeah, transfer. FEMA transfer student.
It's like you come here with the truth.
All right. So now the fun begins. It's gonna be a fun topic. I just feel it. I feel it.
You feel it?
Yes.
Nice. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Sure.
So,
You bet.
what do you think, guys? Adoption? Should a private organization be able to make the call on what family they want a child to go to? Is it their option based on religious freedom, or is it discrimination? Is it...
Do we do paper, rock, scissors? So you
Yeah.
go first?
Yeah.
Well, he kept looking at me for some reason. I don't
Well,
know.
I normally, I do
It's because he's scared of you.
I know he
It's
is.
the
No,
whole
I
point.
don't
wants to
trust
get
you.
you
I'm
out
just
of the
keeping
way.
my eye on you. That's it. Ninja mode. Just got to keep an eye on Steve over here. You never know what he's going to do. So anyway. so that was almost worth it just to see that.
Let me do it backwards.
Yeah. Slow mo, Alex. Slow mo. Get him in slow mo. Anyway, chime in with y'all's thoughts on this, guys. This is like
Let's
herding
hear
cats
it.
here.
Let's hear
I've
it.
been the chief cat today, so I'm already in distraction mode. So go ahead, Steve. What's your thoughts on this?
All right. Well, I
One-
think
1
some
minute
of the-
bullet point.
Okay, 1 minute bullet.
You're down 30 seconds.
And 30 seconds left. Go. All
I
right,
think
Sam, your opinion.
No, stop it.
Why are you at me? It's not my fault.
Oh, slap him on the leg. There you go.
Just
Transfer.
chain reaction slap.
Yeah, there you go. All right, 30 seconds. I believe that a private organization should do what they feel is what was in their purvey, their belief systems, and it should not be classified as discrimination if they do not adopt to your homosexual couples, anything along that nature. There are plenty of organizations out there, private organizations, that will crawl over bigger people than to get to
Off-camera Bill.
Yeah, off-camera Bill.
You know, guys.
Because
The
he's a
person,
big dude. He's
the
a really
person
big
you
dude.
can't see in the room.
They'll crawl over bigger people to adopt a child to that kind of a lifestyle. So I think that we ought to practice what they preach and live and let live. Let them decide. Let them run their organizations. If you don't like it, there's plenty of them out down the road. So that's my bullet point.
All right.
Go, Steve.
Okay. Well, I do believe it is discrimination. The whole point of an adoption agency is to make sure that the parents are well enough mentally, financially, and they have that stability in order to raise that child. Make sure they aren't abusive towards the child. Abuse can be in any walks of life. So I think it is very much discrimination. Sorry. Sorry.
She's
She's
passionate.
very passionate.
She's
about
passionate.
it.
No.
We like that.
Exactly. Sorry.
You okay?
Yes.
Yeah?
I'm okay.
She's
fine.
passionate.
Take
Yeah,
a
it's
drink.
supposed
Have a
to be.
drink.
Yes. Yes.
More wine. I'll have one.
Okay,
All right.
wait.
I'll
That
cheer with you.
was
One
her
percent.
first official comment.
Yes!
Right?
That was
That's a
good.
clinkable
Yay!
moment. Yay! There you go.
Yeah, we got nothing but love.
She's
for
no
you in
longer
this
a
room,
virgin
it's all right.
anymore.
Yes.
I know.
Yes. Samantha has been behind the camera for many, many, many weeks, and this is her first appearance
Yes.
in front of the cameras.
Go,
So,
Samantha.
yes.
Front of cameras is not my
Hey, come on.
specialty.
Audience.
There was no coercion.
Audience.
She was not coerced. She came voluntarily.
Yes.
Mostly.
Mostly.
I admit to luring her with wine.
There's some handcuffs back there,
Are they fuzzy handcuffs?
but those.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
that's
normally
not
keep
that
them
show.
in my, my hanging
In
from
your
my
office?
my room.
Alexa,
Yeah.
tell us about fuzzy handcuffs.
It's tomorrow's show.
That's
And it
tomorrow's
was at
Tomorrow's
that
show.
moment that we went
Yeah.
dark.
Eileen.
No pressure, you're up.
I tend to agree more with Steve. Being a mom, having a baby in your insides is a really, really difficult thing, and to begin with, and to choose to have the child that you cannot keep for whatever reason, you should be able to have a complete and total say in who raises your child. This isn't, you're not selling something on eBay, you're not selling a sofa. You are.
Wait, you can?
Probably.
How much can I get for one of them on
I-
eBay?
But you should be able, whatever
turning a profit here.
religion, whatever your situation is, you should absolutely be able to choose. Whether you're a lesbian, whether you're gay, whether you're Catholic, whether you're whatever you are, you should say, I want my child raised that way. And if somebody else doesn't like that, if they're like, I'm not a lesbian, I don't want my child being raised by that, well then fine. If I'm a lesbian and I want my child being raised by two women, because I think women are like way better mothers than men or fathers, I should have that right as well. That's how I feel about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I completely and totally disagree. And here's why. And this is kind of a real easy target to use. So if we allow gay and lesbian marriages, and that's perfectly acceptable and that's perfectly fine, and we say that is maybe not our norm but a norm, why would we allow anything other when it comes to giving children? And I disagree. It is a good or a service that you're basically bartering, selling, doing something with. Just because you can't go to Best Buy and pick up, whatever kid you decide to buy, doesn't mean that it's not an actual service. The whole idea is to give that child a better life. And if we allow gay and lesbian couples to get married and divorce at the same rates that everybody else does, and they get to be just as miserable as everybody else that divorces themselves, well, heck, why not let them have kids and add more to the mix? I think that's the only fair thing to do.
all right. So we have obviously a very divided panel today.
I think we need to play musical chairs
I
here.
need to sit
Right.
over
Yeah,
there
yeah,
because
we
it's
need
going to
to
get really
shift
ugly.
We're going to have a Siskel and
I
Ebert
would never
moment
elbow
here.
you in the head. I mean,
that was totally an accident when it happened on that one show with that other person. It was, yeah.
Flu.
hey, that
So,
nod's
flu.
coming out on Steve's pretty well.
Yeah. It's healed up.
What nod?
It's
You
healed
had
up.
it coming, man. You asked for it.
What are y'all thoughts on this, guys?
Yeah.
This is
Gracias.
obviously
Is
a pretty
anybody
contentious
chiming in?
point. I'm certain, and we're absolutely going to jump to comments in a little while. So I have a question for you, Saul, on that point. In the scenario of saying allowing for gay marriage, and it's the Supreme Court's ruled on this, it's equal to any other marriage. We have two consenting adults that have decided on this. My question is, if you have one adult who's the adult who has the child, and they're making a decision for themselves that they want a certain thing, it's not quite an equivalent for me with your argument where you have two people that want to be married, that's between them, and off they go, right? Fine. But now you're kind of saying, like, in that situation, you have one adult that's saying, I want one thing, and then you're saying that the state should be able to step in and say, we don't really care what you want, as long as there's other two people here that want that thing, right? So I'm saying, so it's like, it's not quite an equivalent for me.
Right.
Um,
You're completely wrong, but yeah. I get what you're saying.
Well, I was hoping you would say it that way,
Here's
so you could tell me why I'm wrong.
Here's the thing. Okay. So let's say that I am having a baby.
How far along
Congratulations!
I'm about 7 months. I've been working on it a little bit, but I'm getting it. So I decided to give up my child, and the reason I'm giving up my child is because I wanted to have a better future. Because apparently I just can't do it for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter what it is. When I give up that child, most adoptions are set up where I give you the child, I no longer have nothing to do with it. There's not a lot of open adoptions because it's by design. Because I'm taking this baby, and now I'm worried that you're going to show up one day and say, "Hey, I'm your mom, I'm your dad."
Right.
Okay.
Which, as an interesting side note, real quick, I'm sorry, I'm adopted, by the way, just to toss in
Nobody
for
cares.
relevance.
That has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm an expert now.
Quit interrupting.
I remember it
Just
like it was
because
yesterday.
it's your show doesn't mean you get to jump in whenever you want.
Go ahead,
Okay.
I'm sorry, go
By the
ahead.
way, that's what it is. So, shift it.
I certainly don't.
Shift it on a solely different thing. Okay, so what if you're a lesbian who
And I am.
got drunk, and I'm using a really bad example here, but you're a lesbian that has a baby, that is about to have a baby, and you don't want kids, and you're giving up. So does that mean that because I'm a lesbian, I get to control that you have to give it to another lesbian if I'm giving it to an organization? See, there's too much stuff there that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The idea is, what is in the best interest of the child?
Mhm.
The father or the mother really has no bearing because they're giving up that child. It's placing them in a good home. They're going to investigate whether you're black, brown, yellow, orange, lesbian, gay. It doesn't really matter. When you give a child up to somebody, you're going to investigate them. You're going to look. You're going to make sure that that person is able to adequately care for that kid. And at the end, that's really the part that's important. So if I am, I don't know, if I'm a redneck from southern Georgia and I just, happen to like to go hunting all the time and you are a vegetarian, does that mean you can't give me the child because you don't want him to eat meat? You're picking arbitrary rules based on what you want, not what the child deserves or needs. And that's why the argument for me is you really can't do that. The idea is to take care of the child. Everything else is just semantical arguments over what I feel, or
Right.
what I think.
All right, so I'm really kind of trying to pull this out because I'm gonna totally flip to the other side of the argument, and I'm gonna challenge one of you guys with a thought.
He's growling.
So, for me, I'm like, I always go back to get the state out of it and let the person make decisions for themselves, right? That's always the mode I'm kind of operating in, right? I hate government being involved in anything, right? And so this is one of those things for me. I'm like,
I do not endorse his hate of the government.
Yes, IRS, don't audit me, please. I'll be on the hit list. Anyway, and so I'm like, if there's an organization that says, you know, you only want whatever flavor of parenting, right? And you use the example, you know, if I was a lesbian, should I be able to have lesbian couple? Yeah, I'm like, why not? I mean, if that was the worldview you wanted your child to be raised in, why not? I mean, who cares? Off you go, right? So I'm like, that person that's having a baby could take it to any organization. They could take it anywhere. There's organizations that are perfectly fine adopting to all sorts of different religions, all sorts of different sexual preferences. It's wide open, and the parent that wants that, you know, that was birthing a child, they could take it to that. And if they didn't want that, they could take it to an organization that didn't. All right. So, like, why would that be an issue?
Let's see, the thing you're arguing is preference. There's a difference between preference and deciding through some litigation or however it is you want to go about doing it. I prefer to wear black. I can wear any other color that I want.
Sure.
There's nobody that's going to tell me I have to wear a certain color.
Sure.
And in essence, you're telling me I have to do this with this good or service that you're giving me, period. Because that's my stuff that I'm giving up. However, once I give it up, I say I want nothing to do with it. I don't want to know anything about it. Whatever happens to that child, unless it's an open adoption, which is a different thing, unless I want nothing to do with it, I just want to make sure that it's happy and great. So here's the kind of a circular argument. So how would you know? If you give me the child and I give it to you, congratulations, you are now a proud lesbian. And I give it to a lesbian over here, and she's happy to raise that child. Automatically, let's say it's a boy child, that doesn't mean that he's going to be gay because he was raised by a lesbian woman. That doesn't really has no bearing on it. But how would it matter to me? How would I know? Otherwise, you telling me. If it's an open adoption, I understand it. There's a little more meat to that. But
that's why I took it to the organization, was to make sure that they did that.
Yeah, but see,
they can lie to me, but that's what their job is.
You're dictating preference, and that's fine. But if that's the case, then why go to an organization? Why not just do it yourself? I can sell you an old phone. I can go out there, and I know it's a horrible example, but I can go on there and say, hey, go on Let Go or whatever app and say, hey, I've got an old S8 that I want to sell and whatnot.
I guess the question I'm asking is, I acknowledge that it's a preference, right? I'm just saying, why limit the preference? I'm like, if there's 100 different flavors of preference, right? Why say you can't or you can't? Right? Why limit that parent's
but that's your
freedom to do that?
Your argument is.
I'm just I'm presenting it just to hear your thoughts.
And I'm just using that. The argument that you're giving me is that, you know, I should be able to say, hey, I want to give this child, and I want it to go to a good Christian home.
Yes, a saxophone player.
The guy that plays basketball for the Lakers. That's who I want.
It's the only house I want this to go to, a Lakers.
So I mean, why not? You know, I mean, where does it end as far as what you get to dictate and control? If the interest is supposed to be, what is the best interest in the child? That really should be the driving factor. If you have two equal couples, one gay and lesbian, whatever they are, one regular, what makes one couple better than the other? Just my preference on stuff? You know, if they're both equal, there's really not a downside to that. For that child, everything's fine. Yes, you could say I'd rather go to this, but if I'm giving up all my rights to it, and I'm saying, okay, place them in a home where they're going to be taken care of, nurtured, and all that good stuff, where do I keep control over something that I'm giving away? If I give you $100 and say, hey, here's $100, what you spend it on is your business. It's not my business anymore. My purpose was giving you the $100. Once I gave it to you, I'm out. What you do with it is your point. And that's what I'm saying. I think it should be a hands-off transaction, for lack of a better term. Once you give that child up, as long as you have the assurances that it's going to be taken care of, given to a family, it's going to do everything, you shouldn't really be able to dictate. You know, you really should be able to dictate who it goes to. I mean.
All right, so I really was trying to draw out a lot of stuff for you. I want to get some responses from the rest of the
He
panel.
wants to start a fight.
Yes!
That's what it is. Fight!
Hold this pocket knife for me, if you would.
Not close to me, no.
Hey,
Because I'm gonna
would
be
you
the
mind
target.
wearing this bandana for me right quick? And,
Be like, Charlie Holmes. Is that
We're
what
gonna
you're
walk 10
saying?
paces. We're gonna turn around and go.
all right.
I
All right,
agree.
so
There you go.
let's
agree.
get some thoughts from the panel here.
I agree fully with you.
All right.
Once you give up a baby for adoption, that's it. You really shouldn't have any more choice after that, other than wanting to have other than wanting a better life for that child. Because the whole point of you giving the baby up for adoption is to give it a better life, thinking that you cannot, your personal life, your personal decisions will ruin the child. So you're giving it to somebody else. Why should that person have, because they're giving the child up for adoption, why should that person have any say of where that child goes?
Okay, so
As a
you
question.
guys,
I'm gonna
you
weigh in on
guys
that.
address that. I was actually, you kind of started heading down a road to a question that I wanted to ask these guys. So y'all respond and then give your feedback on Saul and her points. So go ahead. Go ahead, Esteban.
All right.
She's
Here we go.
biting her tongue over
I
here.
know.
So
There is absolutely.
give me a good, like a succinct thought, and I'll
There's
turn
a
it to her.
succinct thought. Here we go. There is absolutely no disagreement here that we hold the child's best interest at heart.
Agreed.
Okay? What Saul and you are talking about is let's go right up to the precipice. Let's push government into the bedroom. Where normally where we like to do is lock the door and let nobody check out what we're doing, okay? So I don't want government in your bedroom, okay? I don't want government anywhere in this process to technically. When you go right up to the edge and then you back out and say, well, you know, it's really when you give up the child, you're really giving up all parental control and rights to that child. That is true legal. I wish I could bring on a couple of court judges family court judges that I know here in Harris County that would very well be able to very distinctly define this overall issue better than I could. I would relinquish my seat for that. But I'm saying that we can't just go in and allow the doors to your bedroom to be wide open when we need to be looking for ways to shut that door, lock that sucker up, and kick him out the house is what we need to be doing. And if a private organization that takes children and works with them, puts them into foster care, raises them until they are adopted, they have the say-so. You can certainly, as a parent giving up that child, have a preference. Everybody's saying, they're coming up to the edge, and I'd like to give a preference on this. I'd like to my child be raised by heterosexual man and woman couples, not gay or lesbian couples. So that's their prerogative. Like I was saying in my opening point, there are plenty of organizations out there that will crawl over bigger people to allow a same-sex couple to adopt. Okay, this incrementalism of that community, which is probably, what's the percentage on the LBGQRSXYZ
Of the population?
it's like
It depends on who you ask. 3% to 10%.
3%. Okay, we're talking about a very defined minority in this country that are pushing their values, which are being rejected by people of a faith, of a Christian faith, of Buddhist faith, Muslims. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just saying that lifestyle is not recognized by people of faith. It's actually biblically immoral. Okay, it's right there. I mean, there's no argument about that fact. Do I discriminate against it? No. I mean, we all have friends that are of that lifestyle. They would be the first one to probably say, no, I don't think it's a very good idea, to be truthful with you. I mean, The ones that want to make a big splash say, well, hey, I went to a Catholic church and they wouldn't adopt me a child, so let's get it on the nightly news and let's make a big splash and rah, 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 sis, boom, bomb, let's protest and boycott and do all the usual things that political movement likes to do. I mean, it's a distraction. It's not good for the child to be in that kind of an environment. So there's my point. There you go.
Eileen, that was Steve's succinct.
Well, I mean,
point.
I'm more on Steve's side, and as being a woman who's had 2 children, you know, if I had had a third and I was in a situation where, you know, I could not care for a third child, you know, I most definitely would choose an organization that could care for the child that I believe is in the best interest. The child isn't a $100 bill. The child isn't a commodity. A child is something that, you know, it's hard for men to even understand this, but, you know, you giving up a child, I mean, part of your heart goes with that. So you want your heart to follow, yes, the child's best interest, but you also have your own personal beliefs. So if you want, you know, yes, you can go to a generic organization and say, just find the best home. But honestly, how often does that fail? A lot. We've all seen it in the news. How often it fails that the child doesn't go to the best home. But if you do
I was
your
adopted
best,
by an alcoholic, abusive dad, but so it worked out fine for me.
So you have an opinion on that.
I learned good fighting skills.
You know,
But every one of those
my
organizations are
preference-
state certified. They have to allow adoptions to occur under strict criteria, whether that couple is same sex or heterosexual. That's really not too much of an issue, but they will make a preference since they're a private organization. I mean, if I had a child and my wife and I couldn't take care of that, I'm not Catholic, but I would give that thing to a Catholic thing.
You're not
That
a
is
woman.
such a
See,
bad. I'm sorry.
We do
I
not
would give
endorse
that
anything he
child.
says
Sorry,
either.
bad choice of words. I would give that child to a Catholic organization.
Duct tape a
so that
$100
you-
bill on its bottom and
Yeah.
send it on its way.
Go. So
In the
no, I mean
river with
that's
Moses.
it. I mean, it's yeah. I didn't mean to say that. More wine.
All right, look.
That's a man.
Look,
though.
we've got some comments, I think, ready to go. And I'm certain we have some good comments. I'm almost afraid to see the comment screens. I'm just
Yeah, it's
gonna
gonna come.
I've kind of been putting it off a little bit, if I have to be honest. So I'm sure we have some good comments. We have this is kind of brand new thing. We're gonna break really quickly for a literally 1 minute for one of our sponsors, the Body Mechanics, Chelsea Connolly, up in Longview, Texas. They do a phenomenal job. And I think you guys, anybody that's watching up there in that area, definitely support them. They do a phenomenal job. And this is a video. But when we come back, we're going to have the top comments. Our production team has picked out the top comments. So this is what we're talking about today, guys. Adoption bill allows faith-based organizations to turn away gay and lesbian couples. Is this religious freedom or is it discrimination? What's your thoughts? Chime in with your thoughts. We'll maybe hit a couple more at the very end of the show. But stick around, because when we come back from our sponsor break here, production crew is going to throw up the top comments to this point up on the screen, and we're going to dig into them, and I can't wait to see what they are. So, here we go. Do you suffer from chronic back pain? There is a solution to the suffering. The Body Mechanics, an orthopedic and medical massage-focused practice that specializes in helping clients work through and overcome musculoskeletal injuries and chronic pain. By applying our science-based concepts through the art of massage therapy techniques, we can help you eliminate that pain. At the Body Mechanics, we take it as our responsibility to provide our clients with the highest level of care. We take time to get to know you, your history, and your obstacles, and most importantly, your wellness goals. We help you meet your goals through skillfully applied advanced massage therapy techniques and recommending self-care routines to improve overall well-being. Come in today and let the Body Mechanics apply our years of training and expertise to soothe away your aches. Mention this ad and receive our functional movement assessment for free, a $35 savings. All right, guys, that was the Body Mechanics. The Body Mechanics up in Longview, Texas. Chelsea Connolly, thank you for supporting the show, by the way, to our sponsors, Dean DeBasey with First Choice Home Loans, Phil and Derek's Downtown. Love you guys. Hofbrau SteakHouse. We've got a lot of great sponsors. I appreciate them. Look at the comment feed. Watch the little thing that scrolls on the bottom of the screen. It tells you where to find all our sponsors. Show them some love because they make the show possible. All right, let's dig in. Here we go. Catherine Poole.
I know her.
So
Hi,
Eileen knows her.
Catherine.
All right,
Love
Eileen
you.
knows her. All right. So she says,
Good girl.
Catherine Poole says, if you want a say-so, then have an open adoption. Organizations should not discriminate against others. The point is a good home with loving parents. This is kind of the point that Saul had made and Samantha here. Mars Simon says no. Oh, she said some more. She said you're giving it away. Raise it if you want to have a say. All right.
Ouch.
Yeah. So this was
She has a point, though.
this was a point that I was going to ask you guys. This was
my
a point that I
girl.
was going to ask you two guys. I was going to ask you, if the adoptive parent is the biological parent, if the biological parent is surrendering the child for someone else to raise, are they surrendering their right to say in the process?
In the very end, yes, but not
Legally,
during
yes.
the middle of it. They have that say to say, at least I want to know to my best ability, I'm putting my child in the best environment I believe is correct. And it's your child. It's a part of you. It's a part of your heart. You're allowed to say, if it's a private organization, I want my child to go here. If it's not, then no, you don't. And ultimately, no, in the end, you're not going to really know. You're just not. But you have the say to want that child and to have a say-so. Thank you, Jenny. I believe in that as well.
Yeah, and well, hey, she's already getting to my comments, people. She's reading my comments for me here. She's a natural host, though. That's why. And actually, this actually touches upon my next point, was to flip back the question to you guys on, where you were saying, the ultimate question was, is it, the only concern is it for the best interest of the child and their future? Is it going to be a good home for them, et cetera? Well, Jenny Harvey chimed in with a thought that I wanted to ask. She said many people are religious and they want to ensure that their children will ultimately be raised in that religious environment. To them, that is the best way to be taken care of. So for the parent that's giving up a child, maybe it's a Muslim family, maybe it's a Christian family, whatever, take your pick, right? It doesn't really matter. But they're saying, for whatever reason, I am personally unable right now to raise this child. And in order to give this child the best future, I want it to be raised only in a woodwind family, and then no brass instrument families for my child. This child only needs, woodwind families to be safe and secure in life. And off you go.
Electric guitars.
So I go down to, woodwind RS kids and I drop them off there and I say, look, I prefer a sax player, but if they end up with a clarinet, it's okay. But definitely only woodwinds, no brass.
Well, at Ace Frehley School
launch them off in
of
life.
Adoption, we do things totally different. Here's
Hey, face painting.
Yeah.
Face painters.
Yeah,
That's right. I only want my child in a face painting home.
Yes.
So
accurate.
So I'll give you one word. Puppies. Okay?
Oh, no.
We have lots of puppies. Everybody loves puppies. Everybody wants puppies. Not everybody raises puppies well. They don't train them well. How many puppies are euthanized on a daily basis?
No.
Now,
So you're saying we should euthanize more babies?
no, I'm saying we should euthanize
gosh.
people that come up with the legislation. Wait. No.
More government. That's
I
what
see
we
where
need.
I see where he's going
Off
with this
with the
point.
government.
I see where he's going
Off
with
with
this
the
point.
heads. No. What I'm
Let them
saying,
eat cake.
what I'm saying is there is an overabundance of puppies. This is why
True.
they're euthanized. This is why, because there would have too many. There's not an overabundance of kids. So you're looking at a scarce commodity that, if you look at it from that perspective, there's only X number of kids. People are already stating preferences. People already, I am an Anglo-Saxon male. I want an Anglo-Saxon child. People still have preferences. They still have choices. They still have things that they can do. Look at how many families that are Catholic, that are Muslim, and you were raised in an environment where there was a great failure for the kids in there.
In that
So
system.
it doesn't really. There is no absolute.
Absolutely.
The best you can do is hope.
There's no absolutely.
Yeah. The best you can do is hope. So in the end, it really, you can decide that this is what you want to do. You can decide, you can say, but in the end, it's really kind of almost a random chance thing. So why not increase the chances of the adoption versus decreasing the chances by saying, this narrow field right here is what we want to go to. Let's open up the playing field. Let's look at every viable option and look at the candidates and try to find the best possible fit for this child. That to me makes more sense.
Well, look at what you're saying, Saul. You're saying that we need to open up the adoption pool. Man, this is like the Preparation H commercial where it shrinks swollen tissues. If this is your problem, this is not a lot of help. So what I'm saying is that you're saying that we need to open up the playing field here when we're talking about at most 3% of the population of this country that are of a same-sex arrangement. That's not like that, dude.
But
we're not talking about this.
But see, in any other facet of society, if we did that, we would call it discrimination. We would call it, we would call it race baiting. We would call it
well,
picking
that's
on.
Always the fallback, Saul. We can't sit there and make accommodations for 3% totally. Open that up for them. I mean, it's just it doesn't make sense.
So
if it's not an agreeable,
I'm about to go Star Trek with you here. So you're saying the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few,
or the one.
Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it's a pretty cool movie.
But it only matters if you're the many. If you're the one, it matters a whole hell of a lot to you.
But
and
we're
that's
talking,
what I'm saying.
we're talking about human lives. We're talking about raising kids in an environment. If it's a lesbian or gay environment, you know what? I would love to see the statistics and the studies that show that those type of relationships last for the say if you adopt a baby. Does it go all the way through 18 years till you say you kick them out the door and you go to college and you start living your life? How long does a homosexual relationship? I want to know. I'm leaving this out here. Show me the statistics on how long a same-sex marriage or relationship lasts for the adolescent years of a child. So that's why I don't have the answer, but I would really like to see that. Okay. We can revisit
so
that.
let me pose a different question to you. Okay, so let's say we're a Caucasian couple, Catholic, and we want to adopt a child. Does it matter what the ethnicity of that child happens to be?
No, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't.
No.
We're not in disagreement about that.
And bear with me here. The only reason I ask that is because now we're back to preference. Now, that child, by definition, because it's going to happen, is going to face an uphill battle. If they adopt a black child, that child is going to be like, well, these are obviously not your parents. They're going to face some opposition. They're going to face some things that they wouldn't otherwise face.
Who's facing the opposition?
The child.
The child.
The child. Growing up,
and the parents.
They're going but we're worried about the child here. The hell with the parents right now. We're worried about the child. So if we use that same argument that hey, religious stuff matters, then we should probably look at that because that affects the child and that affects how it grows. That's what I'm saying. You're to me that is a slippery slope argument that you're creating by saying,
well, I didn't create that. You did.
No. Last time I looked, I wasn't the one in government.
I mean, this is just about where you want your own child to go.
Make sure these two,
I think
you guys have been going back and forth.
What you want your own child to go.
Let her go.
Really, I mean, it's all about your own preference on where you want your own baby that you actually have. You know, I'm a woman. If I was having a baby, I would absolutely have preference. If I really didn't care, if I was like whatever, like just give it to somebody, hope for the best, then that would still be my choice. Give it to somebody. And, check the ratings. Yeah, they generally give this child a good home. Regardless of anything, that would still be my choice. But, I mean, I should have that choice to say my baby is going to go to this kind of couple. And then I have to hope and pray for the best. At that point,
we have a lot, of statistics regarding the interracial adoption.
I want to make sure these two get to chime in. She's been super quiet.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Why, if you have a preference, why not raise the child for yourself? Even in financial instability, I have been there. Lord knows I've been there. Why give up the child for adoption if you believe you have the idea of what is best for that child? Why have that preference?
That's a good point.
Go ahead.
And I was very poor when I had my first baby. and I didn't know
So
what I was
was I.
doing, but I was married, and we just winged it. We winged it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have. If I was single, I would have had to have that thought. What am I going to do?
I've been there. I was
So-
single, 5 months pregnant when I left my ex-husband in a women's shelter, 2 kids, and another one on the way. And I
Wow.
still understood that I had my own preference of how I wanted to raise my children.
Of course.
I understood what I wanted for that child. I played with the idea of adoption. I realized that me as a human being, me as a mother, I knew how I wanted to raise this baby. I didn't know how. I knew what I
Nobody
wanted
does.
for the life of the child. Therefore, that child is my responsibility. If you want to hold responsibility for a child, if you want that freedom of preference, if you want that freedom of being able to even on the sidelines raise the kid, either give it up for an open adoption, give it up to a family member, or keep it. When you give it up, when you give that child up for an adoption and you close the doors, you have no contact, you honestly should not have a preference. You gave up your rights. You signed those rights over.
The
You
accountability is what I think she's speaking
I
to.
You
Sure.
have no, and even so, even with the religious preference, what a lot of people forget is that the government is still involved.
Yep.
The government is
true.
still involved in those religious organizations.
That's true.
They're the ones that give them the money. They're the ones that
not
that
always.
give the not always.
No, not
Oh
always.
well, I stand
No.
corrected.
On-
but
on,
I mean, in foster care. In foster care, how many children have been given up?
Especially
for,
in religious organizations, they're very often very private funded. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, learn something new. I didn't know that.
There you go.
But-
See, so that's
But-
good.
but I
You're
mean-
fine.
But anyway, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's
but
still
I
a great
mean,
point.
it's
It's still a
like-
great point.
You give that
Um,
child up for adoption.
yeah.
They're in foster care. They're still inside of the government.
So
They're still inside that, and you can't even tell. Even if they are religious, you cannot 100% rely on that, on them being good people. There
can't, no.
are abusive.
But you can
there
have
are
the
abuse-
choice to at least have your say in the beginning.
So
of
let
the
me
child's
ask you a
life.
question.
Should
I
you
wanted to ask
be
you
able
this.
to?
Yes.
I want to ask you a question. As that's why I mentioned earlier I was adopted, right? So I've had to ponder some of these questions in life, being on the handoff end, the commodity in trade, and knowing, even very recently learning a little more about biological scenarios. There are situations where the person that is giving up the child says the most loving thing I can do for this child is to give them up.
Is to
And-
give them up,
and-
because I
and-
believe I cannot give them the home that they
Right.
deserve.
And
Right?
it's a heartbreaking process for that
Oh,
person.
yes.
And they come to this position a lot of times with great regret and all
Every
this sort of
time.
thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's people that don't give a crap. There really are. I mean,
Yeah,
I know that.
yeah.
I know that.
But it's this
but
heartbreaking.
But there are absolutely people that they go through this
terrible
situation,
process.
and that person says, with the greatest heartbreak and sorrow that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, I want to launch this baby off in life with what I believe is the best course in life.
Good
And
point.
the state is stepping in and saying, oh, no, you don't get to do that.
We get to
Joe,
choose for
Joe,
you.
we have a great example in every week while it's on air. There's a show, 3 words. This is us.
Yes.
That show demonstrates that a family of a different race can adopt a child of a different race, raise it very successfully. That child grows up, gets married, has kids of their own, and has become a success. Whether that's attributed to the adoption process, the choices that the parents made, we got to see a little bit of both sides of that. And I think it's an example that is, I think, very common in today's society, where a troubled mother and father or whatever, they're separated or they're on drugs and they're in some financial situation crisis, and they give up that child for adoption, or they just basically give it to the hospital. There's all sorts of mechanisms. And yes, the government is involved in all of that aspect just to secure that, that's the government is an advocate for that child until someone like one of us becomes a child advocate. There are mechanisms that allow you to volunteer to be a child advocate so that you take these children and you represent them, you go to court for them during that adoption process. So, my mother did it for a while. So, I'm a little bit familiar with these kinds of things, but I think the success rates of adoption are great when you don't interject these outside social conditions like same-sex marriages or relationships. The child is going to grow up whether we like it or not. And where it is placed may not make much of a difference. It's just, hey, give the child a chance to figure this stuff out. Okay? I don't, to be honest, as much as I don't approve of the gay and lesbian lifestyle, morally, on a moral basis, I accept it because that's what people are free willing to choose to live that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I know, have another drink because you're going to need it. I'm just saying that it's kind of, this whole topic has just been one of these things where I just don't like the fact that there's a minority, 3% of the population that's trying to interject their lifestyle into every single person in this country's bedroom. Get out of my bedroom. Stop trying to justify your lifestyle with everybody else. I'm just going to reject it on a moral statement, but on a moral standpoint. But don't try to normalize it. Don't try to justify it with me. I totally dig that that's the way that you want to live. I'm not going to throw rocks at it. I'm just going to say, hey, just stay out of our bedroom. We'll stay out of your bedroom.
But let me ask you a question, flipping it around on you. All right?
Flip it.
That person is saying, look, I'm not asking you for special treatment. I'm not asking you for anything. I just want you to treat me like everybody else. And everybody else gets to adopt.
But they're going to a faith-based adoption agency. Hey, I want that child.
Yeah, but just
come on, they're not going to just roll over and just give you a child.
Yeah, but we're back to the fact that it's a commodity. There's
Unless
there's not you can't go to Kroger's and pick up. Hey, I'd like to take give me the Asian and the black one. I'll take both of those kids. you can't do that.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. Saul. I'm saying you just can't go to a Catholic organization and say, I want a child. Okay, where's your husband or where's your wife?
Right, but if there's a scarcity of
I'm gay or I'm a lesbian.
But what about those homosexuals that are religious, that do believe in God?
Well, that's a real big conflict. Then that's another show.
That's another
show.
Worth of show, right?
Shouldn't they be able to go to a church that they have faith in?
And here's a
they can certainly give it a shot.
I think it would be I would say absolutely yes. I think anybody should be able to adopt anybody they want, and anybody should be able to give up a child to whoever they want for adoption. I'm saying get the government out of it. So if there's an organization, and my step sister-in-law, I don't know. My wife's brother, my wife's brother's wife. Holy cow, that was hard to say. Is a Presbyterian minister, and she is perfectly okay with gay marriage and perfectly okay with that sort of thing. And her and I've wanted her to debate with that many times, and she just doesn't want to. But
get her on the show.
But the point is. The point is that there are organizations within Christianity that believe that homosexuality is okay, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so my point is that if they wanted to start an adoption agency, and it's the birth parent says, I want the family to be Christian, and I don't care if they're gay. Well, okay, you take them to the Presbyterian Adoption Baby Center, and off they go, and now they get to be adopted by a gay couple that are Christians.
There are organizations out there that crawl over.
This is the libertarian in me. I'm like, do whatever y'all want. Everybody gets to make their own decisions and make their own call.
Anybody that walks through the door, any couple that walks through the door will be able to adopt.
And if I had a baby up for adoption, I might say, oh my gosh, this lesbian or whatever religion or whatever they are, this couple is the best choice for my child, but I want to at least be able to say I did my best to do what I thought was best when I had to heartbreakingly give up my child. maybe I would give it to a lesbian couple, a gay couple, whoever, because I felt like that was the best choice. And I picked that couple by myself through thousands of people, and I said, this is the couple. I don't know who that would be. I'm not in that situation, but if it actually was somebody who I might not normally want, I don't want somebody to say, no, you can't, or yes, you can. I want to say, I'm doing this because this is actually my baby, and I want to have that choice to begin with. And after that, I just have to hope for the best.
And look, I'm the libertarian in this sense that, and I'm like, everybody should be free to do whatever they want, and I don't want the state in the business telling me otherwise, right? I hate the state being involved in pretty much everything. On the flip side, this is a conversation I've had, like, with segregation and all that sort of thing. I'm like, let the free market decide. So the cake baker, if he doesn't want to make cakes for the homosexual couple, that should be his prerogative. And if the whole society around him says, dude, you're being horribly,
you're discriminating,
you're a bigot and everything else, and we're not going to shop and do business with you, fine, the market's going to decide. The market will figure it out, and he'll go out of business. Or somebody else will set up shop, and they'll make cakes only for, gay weddings. And off we go. And that's their choice, right? So there's a part of me that says that, but then there's also the part of me that says, there was a point in time where, the black guy who tried to open up a business, just because our society was so jacked up and stupid, would treat that person with such horrible disrespect and everything else, that the free market was wrong. The free market just didn't do the right thing. And so, I'm like, there's one side of me that says, the gay couple that, they've been married for 10 years or whatever, and they just want to raise a kid and, and have that experience. And, last time I checked, there's not a lot of, lesbian women having babies. Right? So
there's not?
Right.
I
Just from a practical standpoint, there's not a lot of
there's ways around that.
There's not a lot of supply happening on that side. Right, so right, but so listen, what I'm saying. They're giving them up for adoption. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So they wouldn't willfully go out to a sperm bank to get pregnant and just to give it up for adoption.
Oh, right.
So
exactly.
So there's not a lot of there's not a supply side saying hey, I want my baby only to go to a gay or homosexual couple, right? And so now here's this gay or homosexual couple, or homosexual couple, period. Gay or lesbian is what I meant to say. Couple, and they're saying, look, we've been married for 10 years, we're faithful to each other, we're not with other people, we're as good as marriage as anybody else, and we want to have a child, we want to raise a child, and all these different places are saying, no, we won't give you a child. So how's that cool? That's not cool.
But there's all kinds of places who are saying, yes, you can do that.
Yeah,
there's some places saying, no, you can't, but the place right next to them is saying, yes, you can.
There are a lot more places saying
The
no.
thing is,
Probably.
we're
probably
deciding stuff on the basis of what we think is right and what we think they deserve, and I think that's the
all we
problem
can go
with it.
on.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem. I mean, how do I get to decide whether Steve deserves to do what he does? I don't have any. That's not.
Well, you didn't give him up.
No, but I'm saying that's essentially what we're doing. He has the right to do what he wants to do, but I'm trying to say, does he deserve to be able to do that? And that, I think, is part of the accountability process. We're trying to say, hey, do you deserve to adopt that child on the basis of your lifestyle, on the basis of what, and that's not really a fair way to do it. I mean, I've said this before, I think the best you can do is be equally unfair to everybody. Treat everybody in the exact same fashion, whether they like it or not, and decide on the basis of, can you care for this child? Everything else aside, do you have money in your bank account? Do you have a stable relationship? If you have all these items that check off, why wouldn't you be a fair candidate? Because we're back to the whole scarcity thing. If this is the only place that makes widgets, I control who gets to buy the widgets. Well, now everybody's like, well, wait a minute, how come I don't get to buy that widget? If it was any other good or service, you would say, hey, that's not fair that you're only selling to him and you're not selling to me. Why are you not selling to me? Well, because you're a lesbian. I'm not going to sell you because you're a lesbian. I don't want you to have my widgets. Any other service, yeah, but any other service, we would say, well, that's not right, that's not fair. But with kids, we think it's okay to say that.
Exactly.
And that's the problem.
I do.
Well, I totally understand why
true.
every time Saul packages this argument, he takes it right at the precipice, and that's fine. I totally dig where you're coming from. I totally understand that where where you're how you're
I
approaching
sense
this.
I sense an
And
error
I'll-
about to come through my
No,
mind.
it's fine. No, I'm not gonna do. I don't do that. Okay.
However,
However,
you're,
I'm just saying that
you're
they
a
don't come right up
handsome,
the
well
precipice.
spoken
And let's
man.
say
However,
every bit of this process is considered. Let's say a homosexual couple comes in and they want to adopt from a Catholic agency, and the Catholic agency follows state law and how this adoption process goes. All of the things are checked. The lifestyle, home visits are made, jobs, stability, finances, whatever. And right at the last minute, they tally all this stuff up, and then they say, no, sorry, Mr. X, Mr. Y, we cannot allow this adoption to go through.
Wouldn't it be
Now-
like XX and YY?
Well, XX and YY,
From
that's
a
fine.
DNA situation.
I'm just saying that okay, we're, yeah, rare. Okay, yeah, I got that. I'm just saying that we can't just take this up to the precipice and just, you're going to have to learn to accept no from that agency.
Exactly.
Mr. XY, XX, and XY can certainly pack up and go right down the street to, the next adoption agency
X.
and go through their process.
Exactly.
If they are that passionate about it and they want to adopt a child, then somebody is going to reward that at some point in their life. Okay, so I'm just saying, get the government
But that's
out,
not
get the activists out of it.
But that's
let
not
Sam
true.
respond. Let respond.
Sam's
I,
got to talk.
I understand get the government out of it, and I will agree with that. But the amount of money that is involved in the adoption process, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Staggering.
How can they honestly go to one agency? You go to one agency, they've been saving up for this. They have a house, they have a beautiful home, they have a dog, they have
Everything's working for
Picket
them.
everything.
fences.
Yeah, everything. They have the American dream. Okay, the only difference is that they're two men, and they go in, they have the money, they go into this agency and say, hey, look, we're throwing this money at you. We want a baby so badly. We believe that we would be amazing parents. We can raise this kid
They
up.
make their case.
And then they put all their money out, and then the adoption agency goes, okay, well, we need more money for this, we need more money for this, we need more money for this. They milk them for all their money, and
Yeah.
then in the end, just to say, no, go F yourself.
Well, that's
Go to another agency if you can. But then
That's
it
a different
took...
topic, though.
It's the same thing. I didn't say it. I did not say it. Okay.
Just an
I
F
did
letter.
Not
Just an
say
F letter.
It was
It.
implied.
But do you
we're back to the
understand what I
scarcity.
You're
mean,
fine.
though? You
Yeah,
understand
I'm
what I'm
totally
saying,
with you.
though.
That's what I'm saying, though. That it's the scarcity. And again, I
So
hate to
would an
package as a
abundance
product.
solve the problem for you?
Well, think about it.
If there was just a boatload of babies happening everywhere and they were giving away,
Internationally,
yeah.
yes, there are.
Look at
Yeah,
the waiting
there
list
is an
that there is for
international. Yeah,
people.
there is. There is
There's
a ton
people
of babies.
waiting. There's people down lists. There's people going through the process for years. And
So
years
maybe
and
they
years.
shouldn't be so biased against babies from overseas.
Exactly.
But see,
Internationally,
that
there's
speaks
so
to the
many
argument
children.
that they're crafting. It's a preference thing. I prefer them to be raised Catholic. Well, I prefer to have a white baby. I prefer to have a black baby. Now we're back to the preference thing. It's not. We're not worried about the best interest of the kid. We're worried about the best
For
interest
letting
of
them
me.
have their preference.
Yes.
And that's the problem. It's the selfish me interjecting
It's
in there.
all
I don't
me.
really care about this child because I'm going to have to give it up. It hurts and I'm going to be horrified by it and all that. What I care about is that it's raised in the way that I want it to be raised.
Yeah.
And that's really ultimately all I really care about because at the end, that's really all I have.
What if you believe that's the best for the baby?
Exactly.
And you know,
You
I
do
mean,
have-
obviously,
if you have a
obviously,
baby, you do
woodwind
have the
players
right.
are superior to brass players. So I only am going to let my kid be raised by other woodwind players because that's the
Exactly.
superior way in life.
The drummer is just not going to work this time.
Yeah, but that preference.
Percussions. I mean, like these are
mean
literally
that-
people that want to grow up beating on things. So, I mean, you know,
That might
What
not
was
be.
you
it,
be the
uh,
judge. What am I?
Does
I'm not-
anybody,
I'm gonna
or
try to
even in
convince
the
you.
audience today, does anybody remember what the parameters were when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt were
I was thinking
adopting
about
kids?
that.
I mean, that I knew
Everybody,
that
you
was
know?
something that was probably going to come up. I'm
Hey,
glad I brought it up.
I literally
not together, so-
know the This Is Us family. The prime example of that had a person in my office just like within the last 2 weeks that said, if you want to do this show, it's a topic, and that is the interracial adoption
Yes.
and the issues that you face. And they have two white children and one African American child that they adopted. and they talked about the whole experience, from having to learn the uniqueness of the child and the aspects of raising the child.
Yeah, but you have Madonna, who has kids that she's adopted from overseas. You have
So look
Tom
what happened
Cruise
there.
and whatnot, and all this other
Look
stuff.
what happened there.
Yeah, but
what did
see,
their money buy? That commodity.
That's the argument that you're crafting. I want them to be raised by Catholic people that are God-fearing. What did your wants and needs desire crafting that?
Well, the only reason we use those folks as an example is because they are kind of high profile.
Exactly.
They make a buttload of money, and everything that they do is
They're
for
able to buy the
public
best
service.
kids.
Let's just
So,
say
but
privileged and entitled. Let's go with that.
everyday couple, whatever their racial or cultural background is, they are still adopting children, babies and older children that are not of their race or their culture. And I'm thinking 99% of the time they turn out just fine. That's my hope. That's what I feel. I see. I don't see it being a really great issue. But this thing about homosexual couples going in there and pushing their lifestyle, trying to normalize their lifestyle, and approaching a religious adoption agency that's gonna fight them, that's gonna probably be very open to their approach, and ultimately they're gonna say no. Why do you want to go through that heartache? Why do you want to spend the money when you know they're going to say no? Go to the one down the street there that will be very open to that.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with that because those agencies still have to play by the same state law and rules.
Because you
just
said
stirring a
it's
pot that
all
doesn't need
it's
to be
all
stirred.
focused on self. It's all, in my opinion, focused on self from the other side just as well. I want to go to the religious organization. I really don't care about the whole baby situation. I just want to force you to admit that I am the same as any other religious person coming to your organization.
What they're fighting for.
Everything's agenda driven.
Yeah.
There's always an agenda.
So yes. So but regardless of all that, I'm like, have an agenda. I don't care. You have your agenda and you do whatever the heck you want. I'll have my agenda. I do whatever the heck I want. And if I want my kid to be only raised by woodwind players because they're the best, preferably saxophone players.
Woo! We got Steve on adoption list right now.
You're a sax player?
Yeah, you betcha.
Oh, I knew
Just
we were
like old Bill Clinton.
brothers from another mother. Yeah, I was an alto player.
Uh-oh.
So thank you very much.
That's going to get some of my friends saying, you're just like Bill Clinton.
Oh, Lord.
No.
Anyway,
I do not have
I'm obviously
sexual-
being facetious, but just to prove a point, I'm like, if you wanted to be that ridiculous in your preference, then be that ridiculous. Well, I don't want the state involved in it. Why are they involved
Exactly.
in it? I'll be ridiculous if I want to. You be ridiculous if you want to. Have fun.
How many adoption agencies are accepting of homosexual couples?
International.
I think actually.
Maybe in the follow-up show when you write up all
Yeah.
the stuff, we can.
I was gonna
find
say,
it on
There's a lot
actually-
of babies.
Leave it this way.
I know, but I'm talking about agencies.
Leave it this way.
How many adoption agencies will
Yeah.
allow a homosexual
Anything
couple
connected to the state.
to-
Anything connected to the state.
Don't
It's
know.
only private organizations, and even that's rare. There's 7 states that have these laws on the books. Texas is one of them, and it just went through in Kansas. So it's the minority. We had a little side conversation.
Yeah.
This is a no on my part.
Shame on you.
Yes.
Shame.
But just to say
Get out of that chair.
that it's making the news that a private organization is discriminating, is turning away prospective adoptive parents based on it's not just sex, it's religion too. It's religion too. So should a Muslim a couple be able to go to a Catholic organization and say, give me all your Catholic babies, we're going to raise them Muslim, right? The people who brought them to the Catholic organization brought them there because they had that intent for them to be raised as a Catholic.
And you should
child.
be able to
And
get your own
so
agency that's
they're in the
private.
minority. There's only 7 states that have those laws, and even then they're being challenged. Arkansas had a law, and it went to the state Supreme Court. So the state Supreme Court ruled in the organization's favor, and the Supreme Court overturned Arkansas's law. So, but it was a very, very specific case. So there's Kansas just pushed through stuff, and they're saying that they'll challenge this as well. So they're the minority. They're the minority. So it's the majority of states and the majority of organizations will accept homosexual adoption.
Per se, though. Is that for real or is that just on paper?
Well, I don't know
You
that
know?
part. I don't know that part.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. Well,
I
we're
just
being
read
ridiculous.
up a couple
If we're
articles
being
today.
ridiculous, I was
So.
brought up Roman Catholic.
That is
Yeah, me
ridiculous.
too.
And-
Me
and-
too.
That's totally
Me too.
ridiculous.
That's
Me
cray
too.
cray. No.
So if
Me,
I
I was
adopt-
altar boy.
So if I adopted a child, and
Catholic
in the
school,
interim I
nice.
decided it was more important to have a relationship with God than it was to have a religion, and I'm no longer attending a Roman Catholic church, are you going to ask for the kid back? Because I'm not raising him Roman
Yes.
Catholic?
That's one
No,
thing.
no,
that I was
Absolutely.
thinking of.
No.
Well, I mean, that's...
Excuse me,
prefer
sir.
for him
You
to
make that
raise
one
Excuse me.
choice one time. And
I
then,
need to
then
see
it's
your
done.
Roman Catholic card, and are you still in good standing?
And I'll raise you a
I'm with-
Baptist, and I'll throw in a Buddhist.
I'm
Baha'i!
I'm with the state, and I'm here to see your Catholic card. No,
At
yeah,
that
I
point,
think
no. At that
no, yeah,
point, no.
exactly. I think
But
this
at
is
the point of interception, you do have that choice.
the point of handoff.
After the handoff, after that interception, the choice is, you just have to give in to that. But there's so many agencies where you
Do
can
not spike
adopt.
the baby, though, when you do the
You
interception.
can. Don't.
Well, when you're selling a house, both parties have conditions when they're selling the house, right?
All the men are
Right.
referring to children as
Well, no,
it's,
I'm-
they, house, gadgets.
I'm putting it into his
Then is
I'm
this-
putting it into his argumentation.
Okay.
Argumentation?
If you're
Argumentative.
if you're
We're
selling a
bringing it up.
house and both parties come to the table and they have their conditions on both sides, right? We agree on the conditions. The contract's done. Those conditions have to be met at that point, right? But now the house is yours. At that point, I got to make sure that the conditions were met, right? The house is yours now, and 5 years later, you're doing whatever you want with it. But at the moment of transaction, I got the privilege to make sure that it was the condition was met.
Here's a sobering thought. What if I just
Homeowners
lie?
Association.
We could use a sobering thought at this
What
point.
if I lie?
Somebody
What if I say, sure, yes, I'll raise him Catholic? Sure, no problem.
Of course.
And as soon as I grab that child and it's like, I'm going to temple. What are you gonna do then?
L'chaim!
Then you did the best.
Wow,
You
that was
did your
a
hard
that was a
thing.
first on the show right there. That was a first. All right, look, we got to wrap up.
We're wrapping up. We're out of wine and out of topics.
This is I think we could go on this topic I think we could go on this topic for a long time. I think there's a lot of nuance to this. I really do.
I know there's a lot
yes.
of people commenting.
I know there has to be a lot of comments on this. It's truly a subject where
I'm gonna be busy
see
tomorrow.
I see both sides. I really do. I see
I do too.
I see a side of the conversation where I'm like, look, I want to adopt, and we're just as viable of a couple as any other, and you're discriminating. On the other side, I'm like, yeah, there's other organizations. Go to them. Quit trying to force me to do stuff, and get the state out of the process and all that jazz. So it's tough. It really is tough for me. I get it. So anyway, tough stuff. That's what the point of the show is. And as you can see, America, we're just trying to save you. One civil conversation at a time.
Mostly civil, sorry.
We can.
She's a little crazy.
She's knifed him. I mean, he's actually bleeding. Y'all can't see it from this side. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, he's been
you've
bleeding.
been talking to my boyfriend way too much.
It's getting dark.
He's been bleeding
I'll
out
pray
for
for
half
you.
of the show.
I'll pray
so-
for you.
Lay some hands on me.
You too can be saved.
Hallelujah.
I think there was
that's
some
another
pretty
show.
clear and adamantly disagreeing points on the show, and yet we all are friends. We're all hearing each other, and I think actually, I'm just from observation. I think both sides had some moments where they were kind of like, "Ah, that's a good point. I could see this kind of a adopting, so to speak, of. Like that? See what I did there with the words?
Yes.
Adopting of each other's ideas
Exactly.
and bringing those in and incorporating it in. That's the point of the show, guys. That's what we're trying to do. Save America one civil conversation at a time. Be a part of the mission. Love the show. Share the show. Invite your friends.
Yes.
So we're gonna write the wine.
You're right.
Oh.
I'm going to turn it into a very sweet.
Dear wine.
We have to read the
Nice
wine
to
now.
see you.
It was a cold day back in November when I first saw you.
It was a dark and stormy
Yes.
night.
Yes. All right, we're going to rate the wine. The wine we were drinking on the show today, the Grande Caballeros Tarentes
Oh, we agree on one
Mendoza.
thing.
Just one thing.
We agree on something.
Yes. All right, so This was a new wine on the show. I haven't had it before. I haven't ever had a Torrentes wine. And we'll have a picture up on Instagram tomorrow. Be sure to follow us over there. We're going to rate the wine now. Steve, go!
And I didn't fold it.
Praise
Oh.
Jesus. I have to
It's not
reprint.
bad.
I have to reprint these like every few weeks because of Steve. He's just like, yeah.
3. I thought it was a pretty good wine. I couldn't imagine really drinking this by itself, but when I drink it with friends, that makes it better. But with a meal, like I said, I'm always a meal guy with this stuff. I could see this probably going with a good, nice fish dish.
Or pork.
Pork, yes, absolutely salty.
DC perfect
yes.
pair is the chicken breast in a cream sauce.
Well,
That looks
there
You're
good.
we
like way
Yep.
off, dude.
Chicken.
Totally way off.
yeah, we.
You're like,
Oh,
wait
the
a
other
minute.
white meat. Is that what you're
Other
saying?
white- that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
pork was the other white meat.
That's a
Sam?
whole different topic.
I rate this a 4. I can honestly imagine this with some really good. I know it said chicken, but I can
Pork.
honestly pork with some really good pork. Maybe a little bit of sweet. Add some apples in there. It would be really good. Pork with apples is really good. You should try. So I rated a 4.
I could
All
see
right.
that going with that.
All right, so for me, this is a wine club wine, and the wine club that I'm in, typically for me, the whites, they have just killed it. I mean, like, through the roof. I've had some of my most favorite wines ever. So they kind of set a bar for me in the whites, and this was my least favorite white that we've had. It wasn't terrible. It just had more acid. We all kind of noted that. It had a little more acidic. I don't know if I need to let it breathe longer, because whites I don't normally have to let air too much. So the next bottle I'm going to try that and see if a little more airing lets it mellow out. But for me it was a little too acidic. It's a 3. Middle of the road.
Yeah, I agree. It was a little acidic, yeah.
I pulled a Steve. I pulled a 2.5, and that's being generous because I.
And she folded it.
I did fold it. That's the only way to make it a half. But I love white wine, and this was a little bit too acidic for me. I love the flavor.
She's new to the wine show, by the way. It's perfectly okay.
Okay, fine.
You ready? Watch.
There.
You ready? Watch.
You're gonna teach me how to
Yep.
do the
See?
2.5.
There's a 2.5.
Okay, I did it wrong.
No!
Still
Hey,
a
she
2.5.
hops upon
So I
your
said
house.
she's new.
Still a
She's
2.5.
new on the show.
That's
Yes, I
okay.
am.
Yes, it's
A
perfectly
2.5.
okay.
I still like it. Obviously, I drank it and then
Next
some.
week
and
when
I
I
would have
get
drank
that-
his,
when I
but
get
he
that
actually
set,
drank it.
When I
so.
get that copy, I'm going to say, Eileen
Eileen
did
did
it. I didn't do
Eileen
it.
did this. That's all right. I will reprint it.
I take full responsibility.
She
So-
owns her folding, issues.
all
here.
your fault.
So I am not.
Oops.
I am not the big
Take
wine
that.
drinker and stuff. To me, usually the wine is either palatable, drinkable, or I hate it. There's kind of there's not a whole lot of. I actually gave it a 3. One great, one bad. I think it was pretty middle of the road. I think it would go great, like in the nearest dumpster. But other than that, I think it would be just fine.
See, it's so
But it's
hard
in
for
our
me on the
belly.
show with wines. We've had a couple of white wines that we had a gal on the show, Gwen, and I shared the wine with her at an event a couple nights before the show, and she flipped out about it. And when she was on the show 2 days later, I said, because Gwen is on the show, and because we had this a couple nights ago, and she loved it so much, I brought it out, and she went, like this reaction. I was like, oh my God, she goes, and then she had to take it even worse. She went, it's orgasmic. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, can we
I
even,
remember that.
I'm like,
Are
can we
we on
even say,
air?
right? I was like,
I
can
know.
we even say
Silence
that? I'm like,
mode.
yes. So anyway, that's the kind of wines we've had on the show.
I've
so.
had that reaction before. Had to hit a girl with a Buick though, but still.
I like
Well,
that topic. That's a new
So,
topic.
yeah,
That's
new
another
topic,
topic.
new topic. So the
That's
wine
another
rating for
topic.
the day is 3.1. That was the rating of the wine. It's a
They took
middle of the
into
road wine.
account the halves.
Yes.
So that's
Absolutely.
How much was it?
absolutely. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in with us, being a part of the show. I know this is a fun topic. Comment, share your thoughts on this. I will be addressing comments tomorrow on the feed, as probably a few other people will be chiming in as well. I think it's going to be a subject that has a lot of discussion
Lots of
going on
controversy.
there. Lots of controversy.
Mhm.
So we're going to be probably going live on Instagram after this. Hop over to Instagram and tune in. It's the after show, after party live feed where we don't pay attention to anybody that tunes in. So. We just throw on the camera and whatever happens,
I have
happens.
issue
you know?
with that.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
That's another
yeah,
show.
yeah. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week, Thursday. We are out.